All right, everyone, welcome. Happy Saturday. How's everyone doing today? I know it's only been a day since we saw each other last, but welcome. Um, uh, Tired. Stayed up late again playing uh, Phoenix Point. So I'm super tired from that, but I got up about 10, stayed up till like 1, got up about 10, but I'm doing okay. Got enough sleep, and yeah, so I'm here. How's everyone else doing? Did anyone do anything interesting yesterday? I just don't do anything because of COVID, staying home, playing games and crap like that. And streaming too, strangely. Anybody? Warren Man, how you doing? Welcome. It's been a while. How's Belarus? How's everything with you? Is this showing messages? It is. Okay, good. I'm having issues with my Restream.io not doing things properly. I'm not sure what's going on here. Belarus sitting well. Saw a picture from a friend of ours and her family doing stuff for Belarus. I don't remember, something with the kids or something. Good to see pictures of them. So I don't hear enough from my friends over there. Although I'm not, all that social, which is part of the problem. But not speaking Russian too doesn't help as well. Just played Donkey Kong Country and sneeze. Okay, cool. Super Nintendo. That's cool. That's one of the things I had in high school. I did a lot of playing on the Super Nintendo. Yeah, Mario Brothers, was Zelda, right? Final Fantasy, all sorts of amazing games on the sneeze. Lots of memories in high school. Cool. Good for you. Games are a good way to pass the time while we're waiting for the world to get their heads out of their asses and deal with COVID appropriately. Hopefully, it'll happen someday. Who knows? There's too much money to be made in not doing it correctly, I suppose. I do have some COVID stuff to go over, but I'm not going to cover that stuff right away because we did a bunch of COVID, I think, stuff yesterday. So we'll cover some non-COVID stuff first, and then we'll get into COVID, assuming we have the time. Ugh. Seems not that bad, to be honest. I mean, yeah, Lukashenko's still here. Yep, that's garbage. But here at the moment, something like silent, Okay, well, that's a mixed blessing, I guess. Yeah, Lukashenko still there is highly problematic. I was hoping something major would have happened there, that he would have been gone, so that people could actually have a chance at a level of freedom. I mean, dictators suck and all that. Hopefully someday. Someday. All right. Got the first thing here. Do you have anything else you want to go over? Anyone else before we get started? Got some amazing voter suppression going on, usual with the Republican Party. That's their thing. Part of the platform, Texas GOP recruiting Army to fight voter fraud in largely minority areas of Houston. A Harris County GOP official. All right, cool, good. A Harris County GOP official said they are seeking volunteers with the confidence and courage to join the effort. Okay, so it actually isn't the Army. It is a, quote, Army. Gotcha. They're looking for the, quote, militia to fight against people of color voting, just like they, oppress people in the South with militias. Texas Republicans are working to recruit an army of 10,000 poll workers and watchers to fight voter fraud in Houston. Leaked video of Harris County Republican Party presentation reveals. Militia. Yeah, it's militia is like a small, informal kind of military sort of thing. Historically, in the United States, the groups of white males who patrolled to keep slaves from escaping or from revolting, those were historically called a quote militia. That's the basic premise of why the Second Amendment in the U.S. Constitution is there. It's one of the things added to help preserve slavery. Your militia is like a police in the U.S. Yeah, it could be used that way as well. Yes, it could be used that way too. Yeah. Historically, though, constitutional context, it refers to that small patrol versus slaves. But yes, militia could be police or other actual military units. Definitely. Multiple ways it could be used. We're trying to build an army here, 10,000 people in Harris County. The man who identifies himself as an official with the county Republican Party said in the video, released by advocacy group Common Cause Texas. The official said he is seeking volunteers from the suburbs where he lives that will have the confidence and courage to come down here in these areas. But so it's, quote, white people going into and oppressing minority communities, right? Anyone see those code words in there? He said, pointing to Houston's diverse urban center on a map of voting precincts. This is where the problems occur, he said. If we don't do that, this fraud down here is really going to continue. Okay, so voter fraud is so fucking small. I mean, it's like a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a percent. I mean, what was it last year? No, I can't remember what the stat was from. Maybe it was from 2016. Maybe it was from Camel X Black, Asian now, Harris. Yeah, right, exactly. Yes, she is the top cop, and Biden is the tough on crime. He wrote the crime bill and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, it's not good. Not good. Yeah, so actual voter fraud is so small, it's not even worth the effort. The biggest problem we have electorally, well, at least within this context, is voter suppression. Exactly the sorts of things that the Republicans are doing, and of course those sorts of things that the Democrats are also doing. Like last year, they spent crap loads of money getting the Green Party off the ballot in several states, and the Democrats have been doing that for many years, but they've been much more aggressive with it this last year. So if they really do something of value, working towards stopping voter suppression would be more of a use to the United States. But of course, that's not their concern. It's racism. Okay, let's watch this video. It's only 4 minutes. What we got here? Come on. Nothing? Okay. Awkward. All right. Common Cause Texas said the presentation, which is dated March 10th, was circulated online by the Harris County Republican Party. The impetus for releasing right now is there are some bills in the legislature that seek to empower poll watchers in some really scary ways, and also at the same time take away the power of the presiding judge at the poll site from being able to remove a disruptive poll watcher, said Anthony Gutierrez, executive director of Common Cause Texas. The group blurred out the Republican official's name from his presentation for his privacy. Yeah, Prince, Amazon walkouts. Okay, so that's referring to Amazon, the company, right? And there are people who are walking out of the Amazon distribution centers out in protest for the horrible working conditions. Yeah, fuck Prince Philip. He's an imperialist. And DMX, yeah, that is a loss. That's a loss. There was a movie. I saw him in a Jet Li movie with Aaliyah called Romeo Must Die. He did a really good job in there. Harris County GOP Chair Cindy Siegel confirmed in a statement to NBC News that the program aims to recruit an army of volunteers, a militia of white people, throughout the county as a way to engage voters for the whole ballot, top to bottom, and ensure every legal vote is counted. In other words, voter intimidation. Siegel also called Common Cause, a radical leftist group that is Siegel also called Common Cause, a radical leftist group that has blatantly mischaracterized a grassroots election worker recruitment video, a shameful effort to bully and intimidate Republicans. Baha, baha. Yeah, as far as I've seen just a little bit about this, is that he was one of the people, that was instrumental in the imperialism through Africa and various other places. I don't know. I'm no fan of the monarchy. Monarchies need to die horribly because, like, Britain spends $20 million supporting the royal family and they do jack shit. It's just wasted money. I thought Steven Seagal. That's funny. Yeah, that would be a movie right there, right? That would definitely be a movie. Oh, God. Former President Donald Trump's repeated falsehoods that the election was stolen from him has inspired an avalanche of election-related bills nationwide, and Republicans in Texas have advanced several measures aimed at fighting voter fraud. Several of the bills appear to focus on how Harris County ran their elections last year, banning the overnight and drive-through early voting options offered there. Yes, voter suppression. Gotta do it. Got to do it. You're not conservative or Democrat if you don't support it. Two restrictive election bills, Senate Bill 7 and House Bill 6, are advancing through the Texas legislature and would give partisan poll watchers the power to videotape potential wrongdoing. That's no problem with that. The legislation would make it a crime to obstruct poll watchers' view, and election workers would be barred from moving them from a polling site. Advocates fear such power would allow poll watchers to intimidate voters. Exactly. Lukashenko's best friend, by the way. They plan to carry. Oh, did they? Nice. Corporations recently began publicly pressuring states, including Texas, not to pass legislation that makes it harder to vote, with American Airlines and tech billionaire Michael Dell speaking out against those two bills. But Texas Republicans have pushed back angrily. Of course. By all accounts, the 2020 election was secure and the results were accurate. Trump's Attorney General William Barr said there was no evidence of widespread voter fraud, and Trump's legal efforts to overturn the results failed in the courtroom and around the country. Still, almost two-thirds of Republicans believe that President Joe Biden did not legitimately win the 2020 election, even as more than 6 in 10 Americans overall believe he won fair and square, according to a Monmouth University poll released last month. Well, to be fair, a Democratic primary that was stolen through, electoral fraud, voter suppression, and collusion isn't really winning. But, yeah. This video signals that efforts to fight fraud are brewing within the party's rank and file, too. Well, that's always been a thing because, people of color voting is a bad thing. The language being used in the video is one of the most alarming things when you think about the rhetoric that led to the insurrection at the Capitol, Gutierrez said. These are the same dog whistles I'm hearing in this video. Gutierrez said he is encouraging supporters to pressure businesses in addition to legislators. We're definitely hoping that the video and just putting a real face and sounds to what the suppression is going to look like in practice helps get a lot more leaders and businesses to speak out against the bill, he said. Election won, not Joe Biden. Elections won by his dog major. Yeah, exactly. It's people didn't actually vote for Biden. Well, some did, but the majority just voted for not Trump because Trump is horrible, and a lot of people really began to see that. It's not a it's not about Joe Biden. Joe Biden's horrible. He's an imperialist piece of shit, war criminal who needs to be in jail. Exactly. It's the corporations that won him the election. And how horrible Trump was. In the video, the Republican official said he hopes to build a standing election integrity brigade instead of recruiting before each election. The county GOP aims to recruit and train 2,500 people by October 2021, growing to reach the full 10,000 volunteers by September 2022 by means of the existing precinct chairs and military partnerships, the official said. Yeah, this is, again, standard Republicans trying to intimidate voters and attack something that doesn't exist. Now, one thing I have put in my policies is that taking time off for poll workers, to be a poll worker should be paid time off. I don't think that's a thing, but if it isn't, it should be a thing. That way, more people might be willing to do it. Be honest, they're all horrible. The only good person is well, to be fair to these conservatives, it's not just Thurman Supreme. Yeah, exactly. They're victims of a broken system. Conservatism. I talk about this a little bit in the post that I haven't posted yet, but it's to have a widespread conservative movement within in anything is a failure of the system to take care of the people, because conservatism typically arises because they have a lack of a connection to themselves, a lack of connection to the rest of humanity, the natural world, and part of it's also evolutionary too. Certain people, conservatives, tend to have a strong reaction to negative things. Could be the first president to give, not take away. Well, I'm not sure what you mean by that, but he has increased the military budget. So he's going to be murdering people globally continuously. Looks like he's probably going to still keep building the border wall for some inexplicable reason. So he's going to keep taking away land, keep building the fucking thing. I know, right? He's pretty much gone back on most of what he said. And then, of course, he's still bombing and murdering people globally, like the standard imperialist pig that he is. So, yeah, I'll abide by exactly. Yeah, it's not a fan of Biden. Not a fan of Biden or any fucking corporate whore Democrat. Giving mine, you made it. How you doing, man? Welcome. We just finished the first article. First one is on conservative voter suppression, voter intimidation in Texas. Where's my N9? It's at the door. You just check out the door. It's right there. I'm glad you saw it. Was that better? Is that a better message for you? Not too long. Okay, good. Glad to make you happy. All right. Venezuela welcomes UN resolution calling to eliminate sanctions. Calls for sanctions relief are also getting steam in Washington, D.C. All right, and this is from, when is this from? When is this from? March 25th. So this is towards the end of last month. So about 20 some days ago. Did I see the Will I Am mask? I have not. Is that? Oh, that is a thing. Your smart mask has emerged. I think I have actually seen. I think I've heard about it. System works exactly how it's designed for. That's exactly right. How you doing, Quiet Mercenary? Yeah, this is exactly the thing, and getting people to understand that poverty, war, exploitation, people dying for profit, that those are features of the system, and that's understanding that is the first step towards trying to get things fixed. You can't fix things until you understand why it's broken, and the system itself is fundamentally broken. These are neat. What are its features? Now, I wonder if these are N95, because typically the ones that are like this aren't N95. I would rather have a mask like this that was N95, but they're typically not N95. Right party is always right. Yep. We just need the right party in power, and everything will sort of. Yeah, exactly. In some cases, that could be a thing, but by and large, especially in the United States, the both parties are bought and paid for by the corporation. So, yeah, it's not going to be a thing. Okay, yeah, this is not an N95 mask. It is not a respirator. So it's mostly just for, what the hell is it for then? If it's not a respirator. Is not a personal protective equipment. It's not FDA, does not replace CDC. What the fuck is it? It's not a toy. So it's just a HEPA filter. So it's most likely just basically for, like, if you're doing a construction or something like that, just for getting fibers out. If it has a HEPA filter in, it'll be you'll get rid of some stuff. So it's just for, like, general use, nothing special. It looks pretty. I was really when I originally was looking for masks, I was looking for something like that was N95, and I just couldn't find any. But so that's pretty much why. Yeah, so cool. All right. Venezuela. Guayaquil, Ecuador, March 25th, 2021. The United Nations Human Rights Council approved a resolution on Tuesday urging all states to stop adopting unilateral sanctions as tools of political and economic pressure. The text was approved with 30 votes in favor, 15 against, 2 abstentions during the Human Rights Council 46th session in Geneva. Among the nations that supported the document were China, Russia, and Cuba. Venezuelan allies also subjected to U.S. sanctions. And of course, European countries and Brazil were among those who opposed the resolution, of course, not wanting to piss off America, while Armenia and Mexico were the only ones to abstain. UN being a tad less reactionary, almost, as sanctions only hurt the people living with the country. Yeah, and that is a problem. How do we engage in, political pressure against countries who are doing things they shouldn't be doing while not hurting the people? Now, that's not something I've really looked at. But how do we do sanctions in such a way that, the people are not impacted, harmed by them? By invading them? Duh, sorry. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Just tell me they've got oil, then we'll solve everything, right? Oh my God. Yep. I don't know how they live with these horrible salaries. Even I can be a king in Venezuela with my $400. Well, yeah. I mean, it comes down to how much does that $400 buy? I mean, the exchange rates, $400 there might be enough to, yeah. You could probably might be able to purchase a house there depending on exchange rates. So that's kind of what matters: the effective buying power of whatever money they have. Like when I was in Czech Republic before they became a member of the European Union, I lived on $10 a day. No, I didn't have rent or anything like that, right? I was just there for like 2 months, a month, 5 weeks, and it was just fine. Maybe there's black market currency as well to get more out of the U.S. dollars. It could be. There definitely could be. Maybe they'll have access to cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, and that sort of thing. That's probably a good call there. The approved document stressed that unilateral sanctions are not in accordance with international law and the UN Charter, in particular those of a coercive nature with extraterritorial effect, given they create obstacles to trade relations among states and impede the right of individuals and peoples to develop. So this is interesting. So saying these are sanctions from one country to affect another are outlawed by international law through the UN? Well, that's interesting. I wouldn't think that would be a thing. I get it, but that pretty much, how does that a thing? So unilateral, specifically, unilateral sanctions has to be done by the entire group or not at all, is what it sounds like here. The UN body went on to stress the negative consequences of unilateral sanctions on the civilian population of targeted countries, reaffirming the right of all peoples to self-determination and urging perpetrators to put an immediate end to the measures. Sounds like they're just attacking the United States here. Which is fair, I guess. Furthermore, the resolution highlighted the need to implement an impartial and independent mechanism within the UN system to generate accountability and reparations for the victims of unilateral coercive measures. Oh, snap. Interesting. So if they set up a system like that, the United States is going to be paying out billions to these countries for unilateral sanctions. Interesting. Can't see that going too far because the United States has the European, people in their pocket, so they're not going to get as much of a consensus as needed to get something like that done. I can pretty much guarantee the moment that happens, the U.S. is going to pull out and things will start to collapse. Just that threat of lack of monetary support by the United States is going to keep anything from happening. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro celebrated the resolution's adoption and the vindication of the undeniable criminal damage of unilateral sanctions against the lives of Venezuelans and free nations of the world. A South American country has consistently blasted the United States and the European Union sanctions for aiming to force regime change. Authorities have also said the coercive measures have hampered the response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Okay. Venezuela's foreign minister, Jorge Arriaza, echoed that the resolution emphasizes the obvious negative impact of coercive measures and argued that all nations that voted against it should lose their seat on the UN Human Rights Council due to the elementary ethics. The Human Rights Council followed other UN instances in condemning sanctions against Venezuela. In February, Special Rapporteur Elena Duen published a preliminary report urging the US and EU to drop all sanctions against Venezuela. After a 12-day visit to the country, the human rights expert attested that coercive measures have damaged public and private sectors, Venezuela citizens, non-governmental organizations, third world nationals, and companies. Now, I wonder if they've really looked at how can they separate the harm of sanctions versus the harm of the corruption of the government itself. I mean, Maduro, right, isn't Maduro the one that the U.S. backed in the coup, right? Isn't he, like, super bad? Or have I not remembered this correctly? Maduro. But the sanctions mean nothing and even helps dictators gain foothold power. Yeah, no, that's exactly right. Exactly right. Okay, yeah, he is the bad guy. All right. Yeah, and that's the issue, right? Juan Guaido. Okay. Yeah. There we go. So Maduro is the good one, right? All right. Guaido. Okay. All right. Thank you for the correction. All right. So it's Juan Guaido. Juan Guaido is the bad guy, the one that the U.S. supported in the coup in Venezuela. Maduro is the guy who should be there, right? Am I right now? So yeah, separating, dealing economic pressure, so political and economic pressure on countries in such a way that doesn't harm the people. That is, and how do you do that? Venezuela should be, it should be Lukashenko too. Well, their Lukashenko is out, it looks like, so that's a good thing. They could do it. Belarus can do it too. You can do it. According to Duan, the blockade has severely affected the country's oil revenues, while additionally prohibiting the Venezuelan state from acquiring spare parts for its industries, medicine, and food, with a reported 2.5 million Venezuelans being severely food insecure. So again, how do you separate the effect of the sanctions versus the effect of the broken socioeconomic system? Now, again, when I talk about, here they've got money from oil, right? Well, that shouldn't be a thing. I mean, if the United States and Europe wants to really do things, Hugo Chavez was his best friend until he died. So why not then? Ah, interesting. That he's also authoritarian? Okay, good to know. Yeah, I don't know anything about this stuff. Okay, so it's just one switching out one authoritarian for another, but one that's less horrible than the other. Is that what I'm hearing? There's like so many countries down there with so many U.S.-backed coups with authoritarians put in. It's hard to keep track of them all. So yeah, so if the United States really wanted to help shift things there, seems post-Soviet countries just no choice. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. It's hard. When the U.S. is working against you, it's hard to do anything right because there's so much money and stuff. A lot of countries. Yeah, definitely. Especially in Central and South America, where the United States keeps sponsoring coup after coup, it makes it difficult and throwing economic sanctions against everyone. It's I talk about this in my policies. I talk about this in my post on if a resource-based economy was going to happen. What would it take? Well, it would take the United States becoming a part of the solution and not becoming the problem. You're leaving me, man. Why are you leaving, bro? Leave your mask at the door. What? Why are you leaving? Did you fuckers leave me? Don't you leave me? I have separation anxiety. I have separation anxiety. Are you back? Are you back? Are you back? Are you back? All right, you go. I'll be here. I'm not going anywhere. For a while, at least. So what was I saying? Oil. Yes, oil revenues. Okay, so yeah, the U.S. could start working with the country to get rid of oil. They've got a lot of coastline. They can shift to tidal coastline. It could also be again talk about geothermal and getting people to shift to getting these countries to shift to wind turbines and solar panels and that sort of stuff. And that would be a way, of course, to work towards dealing with climate change and while helping the country to be much more independent. And of course, that creates money, creates business, and then puts money in and business into the country, creating jobs and lifting people out and so on. Again, working with them to shift their agriculture to vertical farming and things of that nature. That's what we need to be doing all throughout the third world, the Central America, South America, and all these sorts of places. Just lurking? Okay, that's cool. You can lurk. It's acceptable. Let's see. Unilateral measures from Washington and its allies were likewise under the spotlight on Wednesday as the Argentinian government announced its withdrawal from the right-wing Lima group. Buenos Aires condemned the sanctions and destabilization attempts against Venezuela, which have affected the human rights of the Venezuelan population and in particular its most vulnerable sectors. Calls for sanctions relief have likewise grown louder in Washington, with Democratic Senator Chris Murphy penning a letter urging the Biden administration to lift the ban on diesel swaps to provide life-saving relief for millions of Venezuelans. I'm back, but dizzy as fuck, so... Oh, you're dizzy? Why are you dizzy? Too much caffeine? Oh, is it late? Oh, it's late at night there, so you might be just getting tired. Lack of water combined with too much walking. Oh, okay. Yeah, water good. Water's definitely good. Drink some water. That's a good thing. I've got my big ass cup right here. Although I'm drinking cream soda. I bought some cream soda, which I do every few months. So I've got that here and some water as well. Water's your friend. Humans are really just complex plants. Gotta stay watered. This petition adds to a previous request led by fellow Democratic representatives Elizabeth Warren, Ilhan Omar, and Jesus Garcia for an overhaul of U.S. sanctions on other nations. The ban of crude for diesel exchanges between PDVSA, no idea what that is, and a host of multinational corporations was imposed by the outgoing Trump administration in October 2020 and has left Venezuela suffering from severe diesel shortages, the main fuel used for transporting food and medicine in the country. Yeah, exactly. That's diesel bad, sustainable energy good. There seems to be a growing pressure from Congress on the Biden administration to limit use of U.S. sanctions and, more broadly, to start assessing the humanitarian impact of existing sanctions. Kevin Cashman, senior associate at the Center for Economic and Policy Research, explained to Venezuela analysis. Yeah, so that is the question. How do we implement political and economic pressure on a country without harming the people? That is the question. You recall that as economists Jeffrey Sachs and Mark Weisbrot found in a 2019 report, sanctions on Venezuela likely led to tens of thousands of deaths, mainly by drastically reducing oil production. Cashman added that as the Biden administration conducts its sanctions, as the Biden administration conducts its sanctions policy review, it will hopefully read the writing on the wall and put an end to measures that collectively punish the Venezuelan population. Now, it could also be said that, well, I mean, this is no, that's not going to work. That's not going to work. Okay, there we go. So there's that. We bitched about philanthropy before a little bit, watched a video on it. It's been months since we watched it. There's somebody destroys philanthropy. Right, there's a great video on that, right? It's a video. Where is it? Here you go. Adam Ruins Everything. We watched this one a while ago. Go ahead and throw that in here so you can watch that too. It's pretty good. Goes over how philanthropy is bad. The existence of philanthropy within capitalism. All right. Elite philanthropy, mainly self-serving. This is from March of 2021. So this is, yep, yeah, another 20 days ago. Ooh, this is interesting. Philanthropy among the elite class in the United States and the United Kingdom does more to create goodwill for the super wealthy than to alleviate social ills for the poor. Okay, I don't like this font. This font is driving me nuts. I'm getting old, so forgive me. One second, let me find the font. Body. Nope. Okay, it's overridden there, so we gotta find it somewhere else. Let's do this. Nope. There we go. There we go. Much better. Readable. No, hex freaking cheater. Sorry. I do this on rare occasion when they use this crappy serif-based font. Serif fonts on the internet is generally not a good thing. Okay, here we go. Let's try this again. Philanthropy among the elite class in the United States and the United Kingdom does more to create goodwill for the super wealthy than to alleviate social ills for the poor, according to a new meta-analysis. A group of UK researchers reviewed 263 journal articles, books, and studies on elite philanthropy to better understand the role it plays in this new age of inequality. In the United States, the wealth gap between the richest and the poorer families has more than doubled since the 1980s, and in the United Kingdom, it comes as the richest fifth are 12 times as much as the incomes as the poorest fifth. Yes, Reagan is a large part of that problem. Trickle-down economics and all that bullshit. The researchers' paper, published in a special issue of the International Journal of Management Reviews, lays out how on the whole, the elite class mainly donates to causes that provides them with some type of benefit. The researchers denied elite philanthropy as the preserve of wealthy individuals and close family members who became rich through entrepreneurship, either by starting a new business or expanding an inherited one. These individuals generally have extensive local, national, international business networks, the researchers said, and occupy positions with the field of power, social space at the top of society that allows them to impact policy and practice. Until recently, philanthropy hadn't been taken seriously as a part of mainstream management and organizational research, but Newcastle University professor Charles Harvey said it's important that academia moves in this direction, as many of the wealthiest philanthropists have entrepreneurial backgrounds. In the last decade, we've seen tech and finance money finding its way into philanthropic funding led by people like Bill Gates and Christopher Hone, said Harvey, one of the paper's authors. But entrepreneurship has enabled philanthropy for centuries, so it's important to understand how the philanthropic sector supports the economic sector. Many people mistakenly view elite philanthropy as a benign force for good rather than an avenue for the super wealthy to translate economic capital into social and cultural capital, according to the researchers. That's exactly it. So, the money becomes social and cultural capital. Exactly. So it's not really, donating to do good things for the sake of good things like ending poverty, giving homes to the homeless, and stuff like that. It's about them getting the benefit of social and cultural and political capital. 2017, the United States increased the proportion of income that can be deducted from 50 to 60%, which directly benefits the elite. And in the United Kingdom, efforts to reduce philanthropic tax relief fell through in 2012 after pushback from wealthy philanthropists. Households in the top 0.1% reduced the share of their income they donated by half from 1980 to 1990 after changes to the tax code reduced the amount of money they could deduct from charitable contributions, according to a study published in Cambridge University Press. That trend continued in the future decades. In 2018, the 20 richest Americans donated $8.7 billion to charity, with just 0.8 of their net worth as a group. Yeah, so it's not that they're doing it out of the goodness of their heart, because high levels of inequality, of course, results in high levels of sociopathy. It's just about the tax break and gaining some benefit from it. Again, it's not doing good for the sake of doing good. It's, getting that social and political capital, cultural capital out of it. Where wealthy elites donate their money is shaped by where they can have the most influence on local, national, and international level, researchers said. Maintaining their field of power, which allows them to use their business ties to influence the political sphere, is also a motivating factor in their philanthropy. For example, one study of 194 elite philanthropists in the United States found that 104 of them actively worked to sway public policy by funding research and advocacy organizations. Because elite philanthropy affords a higher degree of influence to a select group of people, it's important to examine its benefits and pitfalls more thoroughly, the researchers argue. While investments in philanthropy are beneficial to society at large, the current state of investments has only a moderate redistributive effect between the rich and the poor. Most of the money has not only been kept within developed countries, but also within elite circles, rather than going to causes that impact a larger share of the world's population, such as disease prevention in developing nations. Exactly. Now, there's some argument, like Bill Gates has done some work with getting nets in Africa or something like that. So there's some of that going around, but by and large, it's about, it stays within their countries of origin, or at least the rich countries, and they get huge benefits from it. Universities and colleges such as Harvard and Oxford, which already boast large endowments, are by far the largest beneficiaries of elite philanthropy. Money is also shared to arts and culture organizations and environmental causes, but in most fields account for only a small portion of nonprofit organizations' income. This way, Wealthy People's Charity serves to support institutions that have directly benefited them, all while giving them the goodwill to influence other sectors of society, according to Harvey. The researchers present 4 types of elite philanthropy that are distinguished by a focus in either developed or developing countries. Institutionally supportive philanthropy supports organizations and causes in developed countries, while developmental philanthropy focuses on developing nations. These two are more customary forms of philanthropy. The other 2 types take a newer, more entrepreneurial approach. Market-oriented philanthropy uses market-reinforced solutions to help developed nations, And transformational philanthropy seeks to invest in solutions that will not only combat social problems, but also create wealth in developing countries. It's all about making the monies. Someone practicing customary philanthropy might donate a large sum of money to a nonprofit focused on eliminating child hunger, while an example of entrepreneurial philanthropy would be Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg investing $24 million in a startup that trains and recruits software developers in Africa. Contrary to popular belief, though, donations and investments in developing countries make only a small portion of the elite philanthropy, and investments like these have only become more popular in the last decade or so, according to Harvey. As the differentials between rich and poor get wider, you might expect the rich to give more as a percentage of income, but the opposite is true. It's really just a few percentage points, a small amount relative to the amount of wealth that these people hold as a class. It's not to say that there aren't some super generous people within the class, but the class as a whole is not generous. Again, that gets down to inequality and sociopathy and that sort of a thing, right? And this is also another reason, right? If we have a society which has philanthropy, people having to donate to help people, not be starving or without a home, that means our society has failed. Like I've said before, any society which has any amount of poverty and suffering is a complete failure, period. And that's what we have. So if you really want to judge how well we're doing as a society, well, we can take a look at how much philanthropy and donating is really done out there. The best outcome would be there would be no real need for philanthropy or organizations trying to stop poverty and homelessness and that sort of stuff. So that's why having a minimum wage, a high minimum wage, a low maximum wage, and 100% marginal tax rate is so important. So instead of these millionaires and billionaires giving just a pittance of their billions to, some sort of a cause that gives them some more power, we just keep them from getting those millions and billions, and we just make sure everyone has housing, healthcare, education, transportation, food and all that sort of stuff, and then we get rid of the whole problem. Then, of course, that also helps to combat the effects of the biopsychosocial harms caused by inequality itself as well. If we greatly limit inequality, that has massive, massive returns on investment in social, economic, and all that other stuff. That's why in my policies, of course, those books, right, the new the spirit level and inner level are so important to understand. When read through these books, they talk about the harms of inequality. And if you read through both those, you really kind of understand why destroying inequality with extreme prejudice is so important. Internationally, the biggest givers are actually governments. Between 2013 and 2015, governments of developed nations provided $462 billion in overseas aid, while philanthropists contributed $24 billion. According to data from the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD. The research isn't intended to dissuade wealthy philanthropists from donating or to make the argument that no good comes from the investments they do make, said Mary McLean, a professor at the University of Bath. Individually, there are some very impressive people helping important causes, she said. Recalling conversations she's had with philanthropists who work on prison reform and disease prevention, among other causes. But we're looking at this systematically, and on that level, a lot of improvements can be made. Exactly. And here they are, right here. Here's the improvements. Hand it to you. Look. All right, let's go ahead and watch this. Let's watch this video. It's pretty good. It's only 5 minutes.
Every Every time a billionaire even hints at doing something charitable, we treat them like saints. Mega rich guys like Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, and Mark Zuckerberg have the media falling all over them. But in reality, this billionaire philanthropy is not as selfless as it seems.
What are you talking about? Why, we're literally giving our money away.
Not quite. Take the Chan Zuckerberg initiative. When Mark Zuckerberg announced his plans to give away 99% of his Facebook shares, the press covered it like he was giving all his money to charity. But in reality, he actually gave those shares to an LLC that he controls. And he can do almost anything he wants with that money, including invest it in for-profit ventures. For all intents and purposes, the money is still his.
I'm taking money from my personal pocket and transferring it to my foundation pocket.
Well, the Hulko Foundation is a nonprofit. I'm one of the good billionaires who really is giving their money away.
More like our money, because billionaire foundations like yours are essentially one big tax dodge. Normally, when an individual earns income, a portion goes to taxes so that our democratically elected officials can use it to pay for public goods like schools, services, and infrastructure.
This money will go towards what we, the people, have decided.
But money donated to private foundations is mostly untaxed, which means these billionaires get to put their interests ahead of the public's.
Or this money could go towards what I, the me, have decided.
Not only that, they also get a personal tax deduction for making a donation to charity, which means the public loses out on even more money.
Thank you for your donation. Wait, seriously, why the heck am I doing this?
And when they donate money to their own foundations, they're not even required to give all of it away. Tax laws only require these types of charitable organizations to spend 5% of investment assets annually, and that could just be on expenses and salaries.
I could give this money directly to the grassroots organization that needs it, or I can make Cousin Greg the community development czar. I'm going with Cousin Greg.
More importantly, whether or not they give the money away, these foundations are only committed to their donors' needs, which are almost never the things society needs most. Less than 10% of charitable contributions go towards addressing basic public needs.
Here you are, boy. Buy yourself a chicken wing.
While 75% of donations over $50 million go to things like universities, museums, hospitals. In other words, things that billionaires like you can slap their names on.
Here you are. Buy us a museum wing.
Oh, thank you, sir. Your name will look brilliant next to the de Koonings.
But the most sinister part is that these billionaires are also donating massive amounts of money to think tanks and advocacy groups that focus on changing our laws to suit their personal politics and influencing our lawmakers to go easy on their businesses.
You've all made excellent points. I'd be happy to ensure none of our laws will interfere with your interests.
The result of all this philanthropy is that billionaires have more power than voters. Estimates say the amount of billionaire money put towards shaping our laws is somewhere around $10 billion per year. That's more than annual contributions to political candidates, super PACs, and parties combined.
Well, that's not right. That's not what charity's all about.
Well, at the end of the day, these foundations aren't about billionaires giving back. They're about billionaires getting something even more important than money.
That's right, power.
Gilbert, meet Anand Girdadas. He's a journalist and author of the book Winners Take All, the elite charade of changing the world.
Who put him there? What happened to my Picasso?
Picasso? That was clearly a fake. Just like the missions of some of those billionaire foundations, they exert massive power over our democracy through their massive donations, making their philanthropy practically a fourth branch of government.
Even if a few of these foundations do end up helping the public in some way, we have to question whether that's how we want our society to operate.
That's right. I'm not against billionaires giving to good causes. I want to ask why we even have billionaires and why we have a system that relies on billionaires to fund those causes. Plus, many of these billionaires have fought for the public policies that caused our biggest social problems. And the fact that they can amass this kind of wealth is what drives our incredible inequality in the first place.
Amen, brother.
So why would we trust them to fix it when they're at the bottom of it. You know who'd be a really bad firefighter? An arsonist.
All right, there you go. Some more stuff on the horrors of philanthropy. Yeah, like I said, the fact that philanthropy is a thing is a specific testament to how much our society has failed. It's better to create a society where philanthropy is not at all needed or even possible. Because capitalism. All right. So, enough of that. Now we're on to something else. Questions, comments, suggestions? Before we move on to some environmental doomerism, because that's what we do here. Glad that billionaires decide what's best for us. Exactly. Because they got the money to decide. All right, so they sure would want socialism if they would just realize how good that is. If only. Yeah, of course. If you know, obviously, if they went and did that, they would lose their millions and billions, which is why, of course, they spend millions and billions fighting against, you know, actually making the world a better place. To make the world a better place means they have to stop being the horribly corrupt sociopaths that they are. And that's fundamentally what my policies are about. Stopping all of that, and minimum wage, maximum wage, wealth tax, and all sorts of things like that. Yeah, if there's anyone watching who's new, this is my policy site. Yeah, money rots brain, no chance for that. Yeah, exactly. And people, because the harms caused by inequality, and they become sociopathic, and it's really harmful. And in a sense, this is my blog as well. And in a sense, honestly, taking their money away from them and reducing inequality is for their own good. It's to help cure them of their sociopathy, because they literally have brain damage from their inequality and from their riches. And we're saving them from themselves is what we're doing. Yeah, so this is what I was doing. Okay, so and I have this post here that kind of talks about the very basics of it. Tension within methods of exchange. It's a 9-minute read. It's super simple. I know you guys, my regulars here, see me share this all the time, but it's that important. And also, if you want to get deeper into the issues with capitalism, there's my Cancer of Capitalism post here, which goes into a lot more depth. All right. So, now on to some climate change doomerism. This is from April 7th, so just a few days ago. Are you ready? I only have like two. I only have 2 posts to this, 2 doomerism thing. Actually, no, this one's only 1 doomer post and some other 2 more environmental things. Marine life is fleeing the equator to cooler waters. History tells us this could trigger a mass extinction event. Well, it's not so much that this happening triggers it, but it is a symptom of an extinction level event. Things are getting too hot at the poles, so they're migrating to areas where the temperature is appropriate for their life. The tropical water at the equator is renowned for having the richest diversity of marine life on Earth, with vibrant coral reefs and large aggregations of tunas, sea turtles, manta rays, and whale sharks. The number of marine species naturally tapers off as you head towards the poles. Ecologists have assumed this global pattern has remained stable over recent centuries until now. A recent study found the ocean around the equator has already become too hot for many species to survive, and that global warming is responsible. In other words, the global pattern is rapidly changing. And as species flee to cooler water towards the poles, it's likely to have profound implications for marine ecosystems and human livelihoods. When the same thing happened 252 million years ago, 90% of all marine species died. Oh, wow. And of course, this will have, in the micro scale that we are living in, over the years, that's going to result in, extreme loss in, of course, diversity in those areas, but also those countries that are in those areas that rely on fish and the sea to make a living, they are going to lose, everything. It's going to be even harder for these countries in Central America, somewhere near the equator, or down there farther. Okay, where the hell's... Okay, let's check. Such a... Nope, let's look. Hold on. What the hell does the equator go through? Equator line countries, here we go. Yeah, okay, so South America, Africa, Indonesia, yeah, kind of right, probably right around here. The Tropic of Cancer and Capricorn is where this is probably going to hit the most as this is going. The bell curve is warping dangerously. This global pattern, where the number of species starts lower at the poles and peaks at the equator, results in a bell-shaped gradient of species richness. We looked at distribution records for nearly 50,000 marine species collected since 1955 and found a growing dip over time in this bell shape. Okay, so green is 1955 to 74, and then 74 to 94 to 2015. Okay. So green, purple, and then red. So green is the beginning, and red is the closest to current time. So you see it's going down, green to red, here in the center. And this is the latitude down here. So as our oceans warm, species have tracked their preferred temperatures by moving toward the poles, although the warming at the equator of 0.6 degrees over the past 50 years is relatively modest compared to the warming at higher latitudes. Tropical species have moved further to remain in their thermal niche compared with species elsewhere. As ocean warming has accelerated over the recent decades due to climate change, the dip around the equator has deepened. Predicted such a change 5 years ago using a modeling approach, and now we have observational evidence. For each of the 10 major groups of species we study, including pelagic fish, reef fish, and mollusks that live in water or on the sea floor, the richness either plateaued or declined slightly at latitudes with mean annual sea surface temperatures above 20 degrees Celsius. Today, species richness is greatest in the northern hemisphere in latitudes around 30 degrees north, off southern China and Mexico, and in the south around 20 degrees south off northern Australia and southern Brazil. So that we're looking at, yeah, so Tropic of Cancer, Tropic of Capricorn looks like. This has happened before. We shouldn't be surprised biodiversity has responded so rapidly to global warming. This has happened before and with dramatic consequences. 252 million years ago. At the end of the Permian geological period, about 252 million years ago, global temperatures warmed by 10 degrees Celsius over 30 to 60,000 years as a result of greenhouse gas emissions from volcanic eruptions in Siberia. Fucking Siberia, right? A 2020 study of the fossils from that time shows the pronounced peak in biodiversity at the equator flattened and spread during this mammoth rearranging of global biodiversity. 90% of all marine species were killed. Holy crap in a box. 125,000 years ago. 2012 study showed that more recently, during the rapid warming around 125,000 years ago, there is a similar swift movement of coral reefs away from the tropics, as documented in the fossil record. The result was a pattern similar to the one we described, although there was no associated mass extinction. Authors of the study suggest their results might foreshadow the effects of our current global warming, ominously warning there could be mass extinctions in the near future as species move into the subtropics, where they might struggle to compete and adapt. Okay, yep. Today, during the last ice age, which ended around 15,000 years ago, the richness of forams, a type of hard-shelled single-celled plankton, peaked at the equator and has been dropping there ever since. This is significant as plankton is a keystone species in the food web. Yep. Our study shows that decline has accelerated in recent decades due to human-driven climate change. The profound implications. Losing species in tropical ecosystems means ecological resilience to environmental changes is reduced, potentially compromising ecosystem persistence. In subtropical ecosystems, species richness is increasing. This means there will be species invaders, novel predator-prey interactions, and new competitive relationships. For example, tropical fish moving to Sydney Harbor compete with temperature species for food and habitat. This could result in ecosystem collapse, as was seen at the boundary system between the Permian and the Triassic periods, in which species go extinct and ecosystem services such as food supplies are permanently altered. Yeah, so basically, as the temperatures change, aquatic species are going to shift to the further north and south, away from the equator, and then they're going to go into areas where they weren't normally native to, and then they're going to end up competing for food and so on with the species that are native to those areas. Sort of like an invasive, very slow-moving invasive species. But then when that happens, of course, they're going to be competing for food and places to live and all that sort of stuff, and eventually there's going to be fallout from there, and the environment there is going to change drastically based on the new sets of species that are competing in those areas. Curly Bear, how you doing? Welcome. How you doing today? We're doing just a little bit of doomer here. Just a little bit. Just one article. And just slightly doomer. I'm not freaking out completely. Yet. How's your weekend? Just woke up. Holy shit. Did you work the night? The night crew? Or did you take a nap? Well, still, it's 4 o'clock here. But still, 2 o'clock. I woke up at 10. I stayed up until 1 playing Phoenix Point. But I got up at 10. What time did you go to bed? Are you partying all night? Are you partying? Working late? Oh, yeah. That sucks. I was having fun at least. I hope you slept well. I woke up about 7 o'clock because the daughter was making noise, but then I was fortunately able to get back to sleep. Sometimes I'm not able to get back to sleep when she does that, but fortunately I was able to. Yay! So my body needs 9 to 10 hours of sleep. Boy, did I. Saturdays are my day to sleep in. Oh, okay. Okay, well, good. Well, good for you. Good for you, then. Good for you. Glad you got some sleep. Well, welcome up. Welcome to being awake. All right, so we're talking about how marine life is fleeing from the equator to cooler grounds, and that's going to cause, so that's going to cause significant biodiversity changes and competition in these areas. We looked here, we're fleeing from kind of the equator, going towards the tropics. That's going to probably end up with a dead zone in here near the equator, which is going to cause significant, food issues and economic issues for these areas as this goes on. And then they're saying that this, well, here we go. Right here, this kind of shows the species richness, species diversity over time. And you can see kind of here, and this is the latitude, tropics here, and then the equator. Species diversity is going down significantly. That's what we're looking at. Then we watched this video on philanthropy, this article on philanthropy bad, Venezuelan sanctions in the UN, and Texas voter suppression. That's what we've done so far. Doing just one kind of doomerist article, and then we're gonna move on a little bit. Okay, where did we go? We're down here. There we go. All right. 125,000 years ago. Did I read this already? I did. Authors of the study suggested their results might foreshadow the effects of our current global warming, ominously warning there could be mass extinctions in the near future as species move into the subtropics where they might struggle to compete and adapt. Today, during the last ice age, which ended around 15,000 years ago, the richness of... I already read this. All right, I'll read it again. The richness of forams, a type of hard-shelled, single-celled plankton, peaked at the equator and has been dropping there ever since. This is significant as plankton is a keystone species in the food web. Yeah, so as temperature goes up and as the acidity goes up, this is definitely going to happen more. The plankton is very sensitive to that sort of thing, so they're going to start dying, and that death will create a further increase in the acidity, which will kind of create this positive feedback loop towards things dying in those areas. Our study shows that decline has accelerated in recent decades due to human-driven climate change. The profound implications. Losing species in tropical ecosystems means ecological resilience to environmental changes is reduced, potentially compromising ecosystem persistence. In subtropical ecosystems, species richness is increasing. This means there'll be species invaders. Now, I read all this already. Novel predatory prey interactions and new competitive relationships. For example, tropical fish moving into Sydney Harbor compete with temperature species for food and habitat. This could result in ecosystem collapse, as was seen at the boundary between the Permian and the Triassic periods, in which species go extinct and ecosystem services, such as food supplies, are permanently altered. The changes we describe will also have profound implications for human livelihoods. For example, many tropical island nations depend on the revenue from tuna fishing fleets through the selling of licenses in their territorial waters. Highly mobile tuna species are likely to move rapidly towards subtropics, potentially beyond sovereign waters of island nations. Yeah, and that's kind of what I was saying. That the economic impact here is going to be fairly devastating for anyone near the equator, as they lose access to the sea life moves away from the equator and towards the tropics, further increasing the harms of climate change. Create food shortages and economic collapse and war and all sorts of other horrible things. Similarly, many reef species important for artisanal fishers and highly mobile megafauna such as whale sharks, manta rays, and sea turtles that support tourism are also likely to move toward the subtropics. The movement of commercial and artisanal fish and marine megafauna could compromise the ability of tropical nations to meet the sustainable development goals concerning zero hunger and marine life. Good stuff. Is there anything we can do? One pathway is laid out in the Paris Climate Accords, which is toothless and basically pointless. It involves aggressively reducing our emissions. Okay, definitely should be done. Other opportunities are also emerging that could help safeguard biodiversity and hopefully minimize the worst impacts of it shifting away from the equator. Currently, 2.7% of the ocean is conserved in fully or highly protected reserves. This is well short of the 10% target by 2020 under the UN Convention on Biological Diversity. And abortion, how you doing? Welcome. All right, got one article here about the loss of biodiversity near the equator due to climate change. It's the end of the world as we know it. How's your Saturday? I haven't completely lost my mind yet today, so that's good. Girly Bear hasn't shared anything that's left me going crazy, so we're pretty good so far. And yes, we are. How you doing? LGBTQIA PPPPPP and whatever else is out there. Yep. Definitely. Yeah, that's what originally got me into politics. Way back 2005, 6, 7, 8, and the first pages that I wrote were on gay marriage. Actually, the Proposition 8 trial, which is what brought gay marriage to the United States. That's what originally got me into politics. So gay marriage, I wrote something on polygamy, prostitution, polyamory. So Yeah, and I gave a talk on gender and sexual. Not a talk. I didn't give a talk. I facilitated a discussion on gender and sexual orientation or something like that. Depending on what you mean, sure. What you got going on? Can you guys hear the music okay? It's too loud, not loud enough. Oh God, please don't say that. Please, dear God, don't say that. It's okay, but please don't. Please don't. Please don't. There's nothing godly about Donald Trump. He is the antithesis of what Christianity. But he's a good guy. He's a liar, a con man, and a fraud, a womanizer. She's infidelitist. I mean, he's only good if your moral compass is kind of broken. I keep freezing for you. I did increase the frames per second from 30 to 60. Is he of all age, unlike the Dems? That's funny. That's pretty funny. Okay, all right, may have just been the internet connection. He really doesn't have any redeeming qualities at all. I mean, he's just bad. Just bad. That's why I didn't cover him at all, like during, well, his stuff. You guys see the creepy old guy fall up the stairs? Yeah, I've seen it. Big deal. I really don't care. Don't care. Don't care. What's her face? Clinton had the same thing going on during the election. Didn't cover it. Not useful. Not interesting. I don't know. I predicted 6 months to 2 years before he would step down and Kamala Harris would take over. I've fallen upstairs a couple times. I've done that a few times too. Yeah. Sometimes these stairs are just like, fuck you, dude. Hit the stairs. Only once, never again. Oh, actually, one time I fell down. I actually fell back and I broke my toe. It's the only time I've ever broken anything in my body. Oh my God. It took me almost a year to start walking semi-normally. Then a year and a half before I could walk without any problems. I don't know if I'd say 1,000. I mean, but they're both very bad in their own way. I mean, Kamala kept innocent people in jail just to maintain her record, and Biden wrote the various crime bills which destroyed many people's lives. They're both fucking horrific. I mean, they're bad, just super bad, super mega ultra bad. To be honest, we need DeSantis, Crenshaw. Since you like Trump, I'm probably going to disagree with you on that. Actually, who we need is Nina Turner. Typical cop, yeah. So Nina Turner, that's who we need. I don't know how she's going to run. I've watched the People's Party. I participated in their first little thing, and it was really good. But the problem, I don't know what the answer is, honestly, because the Squad and Bernie Sanders running as Democrats, they've been able to make some movement, but not as much change as needs to be done. But obviously, they're not the majority. Need a hand job? No idea who that is. Oh my God. Nina Turner, yeah, Nina Turner. She is fucking awesome. If you watch the People's Party convention, the first one, Ryan Knight's on there, Marianne Williamson, Nina Turner, and a few other really amazing, really leftist people. It was really good. It was really good. But again, how much a quote third party can do, I really don't know. Like I said, when I kind of criticized the People's Party a little bit, or not so much criticized, but it's not so much that we need we don't need a third party. We honestly need a second party, but that's a whole other conversation. But it would be more useful if the People's Party, instead of creating a third party, if they were to act as an umbrella to work with all these other leftist parties and get them working together to, instead of working separately on their own little things, get them to work together and, pool the resources and just work together on getting stuff done, because they can get so much more done if they work together than they can working apart. And that's, of course, that's how capitalism does its thing, unfortunately. All right. So this, what did they say here? Yeah, so 30%, but a group of 41 nations pushing to set a new target of protecting 30% of the ocean by 2030. Yeah, this is a good start. And in my policies, I don't have a specific number on this, but 30% sounds like a good start. Probably want to have closer to 40. I don't know if we can do 50%. 50% is pretty huge. But 30% it seems like a good number. This 30 by 30 target could ban seafloor mining and remove fishing in reserves that can destroy habitats and release as much carbon dioxide as global aviation. These measures would remove pressures on biodiversity and promote ecological resilience. Designing climate. Oh, and abortion. Since you're new here, these are my policies here. I have my own political policy site, and this is my blog. If you want to see sort of stuff that I believe, that's all in here. I know my regulars are really sick and tired of seeing it, but if you want to see what I believe, it's all in there. Designing climate-smart reserves could further protect biodiversity from future changes. For example, reserves for marine life could be placed in refugia where the climate will be stable over the foreseeable future. We now have evidence that climate change is impacting the best known and strongest global pattern in ecology. We should not delay actions to try to mitigate this. Yes, we definitely need to do stuff like this. We need to be much more aggressive on the creating reserves. Not that, honestly, creating reserves, there's use in that, right? By preserving biodiversity and stuff, but ultimately that's not going to save us from anything, because climate change, just like we're talking here, is going to end up destroying it. At its very core, we need to be fighting climate change so that we don't have to worry about species migrating from the equator to the tropics, and the economic and political and all the other problems that come with that, and the environmental problems that come with that. Deal with climate change so you don't have to deal with shit like this. Ugh. All right, so there's that. All right. Questions, comments, suggestions on that before we move on? When is this? This is Oh, there it is. April 9th. Okay, so this is from like yesterday. All right, we found methane-eating bacteria living in a common Australian tree. It could be a game changer for curbing greenhouse gases. Now, I've read through most of this, and it's kind of interesting. Originally, I thought it was going to be an extremophile, but, well, obviously trees aren't extreme environments, so it's definitely not that. Trees are the Earth's lungs. It's well understood they draw down and lock up vast amounts of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. But emerging research is showing how trees can also emit methane, and it's currently unknown just how much. This could be a major problem given methane is a greenhouse gas, about 45 times more potent than carbon dioxide at warming our planet. However, in a world-first discovery published in Nature Communications, we found unique methane-eating communities of bacteria living within the bark of a common Australian tree species, paperbark. I'm not going to pronounce that. These microbial communities were abundant, thriving, and mitigated about 1/3 of the substantial methane emissions from paperbark that would have otherwise ended up in the atmosphere. Because research on tree methane, or treethane, is still in its relative infancy, there are many questions that need to be resolved. Our discovery helps fill these critical gaps and will change the way we view the role of trees within the global methane cycle. Wait, trees emit methane? Yes, you read that right. Methane gas within cottonwood trees was first reported in 1907, but has been largely overlooked for almost a century. Only in 2018 was a tree methane review published, and then a researcher blueprint put forward, labeling this as a new frontier on the global carbon cycle. It has since been gaining rapid momentum, with studies now spanning the forests of Japan, UK, Germany, Panama, Finland, China, Australia, US, Canada, France, and Borneo, just to name a few.
Did you know that trees...
All right, this is 2 minutes. Let's go ahead and give this a quick look. Here we go.
Did you know that trees can emit flammable methane? Well, you're not alone, because until recently, neither did we.
I'm Dr. Luke Jeffrey, an early career researcher with SCU Geoscience, and I'm investigating whether trees are an unaccounted for source of methane.
Methane is a potent greenhouse gas, about 34 times stronger at warming our planet's atmosphere than carbon dioxide. Most naturally occurring methane is produced within Earth's wetlands. Methane can be created when organic carbon from vegetation and soils are slowly decomposed by bacteria in saturated environments. Although wetland methane emissions and drivers have been well documented, literally only a handful of studies have accounted for emissions. Recent discoveries of significant methane emissions from tropical forests and also in upland forests suggest that trees may have been overlooked. Our team also discovered that both dead and living mangroves were methane emitters too. And with an estimated 3 trillion trees on Earth, even relatively small emissions may start to add up, but with only a handful of studies, we currently just don't know enough. My research aims to unravel some of these mysteries and determine whether trees are a cryptic source of methane. Our preliminary data suggests that in wetland forests, the bulk of the methane is produced in the sediments by bacteria. This methane is then transported upwards through the root systems of the trees and then outwards through the bark of their trunks. But the ongoing research questions I aim to answer are: which tree species and habitats do or do not emit methane? What is the range in methane emission rates? What is driving these emissions? And are these significant for global methane emissions budgets? To achieve this, I will use a combination of field and lab-based campaigns, cutting-edge instrumentation and methods to explore the variability across a range of tree species, habitat types, and under various environmental conditions. With this newfound knowledge and data, can land managers, decision makers, and future climate change mitigation strategies be better advised in ways to maximize carbon sequestration in forest whilst avoiding potential and unwanted methane emissions?
So there you go. Like gaming mind said, even the trees are trying to kill us now too, right? There you go. Some cases, treethane emissions are significant. For example, the tropical Amazon basin is the world's largest natural source of methane. Trees account for around 50% of its methane emissions. Likewise, research from 2020 found low-lying subtropical Melaleuca forests in Australia emit methane at similar rates to trees in the Amazon. Wow. Dead trees can emit methane too, of course, right? Because it's decomposing. At the site of a catastrophic climate-related mangrove forest dieback in the Gulf of Carpentaria, dead mango trees were discovered to emit 8 times more methane than living ones. This poses new questions for how climate change may induce positive feedbacks, triggering potent greenhouse gas release from dead and dying trees. Yeah, and that's a big deal. Positive feedback loops. Now, I talked about this a little bit when talking about the Amazon forest burning, because that really freaked me the fuck out, right? See, if the Amazon forest is burning, not only is it releasing carbon dioxide into the air, which is a greenhouse gas, but you're getting rid of more trees, which reduces the environment's ability to soak carbon. So we can process less carbon dioxide, right? And you're giving off more, so it ends up being this loop and making it much worse. Then, of course, with fewer trees, more carbon dioxide in the air, temperature goes up, more fires, more burning, more carbon dioxide, and it's this vicious cycle. Then if you also add in the increase in acidity as well, which reduces the health slowly of the plant life, then the temperature goes up, drying out. It's just bad. Just bad. Trethane emissions most likely account for some of the large uncertainties within the most recent global methane budget, which tries to determine where all the methane in the atmosphere comes from. But we're still a long way from refining an answer to this question. Currently, trees are not yet included as a distinct emission category. So where is the trethane coming from? Within wetland forests, scientists assume most trethane emissions originate from the underlying soils. The methane is transported upwards via the tree roots and stems, then through to the atmosphere via their bark. When confirmed in other recent research, that wetland soils were indeed the source of methane emissions in lowland forest trees, but this wasn't always the case. Some lowland forest trees, such as cottonwood, can emit flammable methane directly from their stems, which is likely produced by microbes living within the moist trees themselves. Dry upland forest trees are also emerging as methane emitters too, albeit at much lower rates. So it sounds like here that it's not so much the trees themselves are what is actually making the methane, because that would be highly problematic. It's more that, in a sense, the tree is, well, engaging in a methane-based burp. They've got the microbes in the soil or in the trees creating the methane that's getting absorbed in the tree, and that's coming up through the tree, and then it's being emitted from the tree. So it's like a methane tree burp. And the lack of rain because the Amazon creates its own rainfall, but since there's less trees and drier conditions, fires. Yeah, exactly right. Exactly. It's that positive feedback loop which ends up accelerating the destruction. So only burn down the soil, not the trees. Got it. Exactly right. Exactly right. So that's going to be really a question here. If it really is the bacteria that is the microbes within the ground that are creating this, and then it's being transported up, how do you deal with the microbes that are creating the methane? So here, discovering methane-eating bacteria. For our latest research, we used microbiological extraction techniques to sample the diverse microbial communities that live within trees. We discovered the bark of paperbark trees provide a unique home for methane oxidizing bacteria that consumes methane and turns it into carbon dioxide, a far less potent greenhouse gas. Remarkably, these bacteria made up of 25% of total microbial communities living in the bark, and were consuming around 36% of the tree's methane. It appears these microbes make an easy living in the dark, moist, and methane-rich environments. So now, if only we can find a bacteria that turns methane into oxygen, I think that would probably be a little bit better. This discovery will revolutionize the way in which we view methane-emitting trees and the novel microbes living within them. Only through understanding why, how, which, when, and where trees emit the most methane may we more effectively plant forests that effectively draw down carbon dioxide while avoiding unwanted methane emissions. So yeah, maybe it's going to be a mix of, you've got trees which, burp methane more, combined with trees that have, absorbed the methane or have a microbial environment that eats up the methane. Our discovery that bark-dwelling microbes can mitigate substantial trethane emissions complicates this equation, but provides some reassurance that microbiomes have evolved within trees to consume methane as well. Future work will undoubtedly look further afield, exploring the microbial communities of other methane-emitting forests. 1 trillion trees to combat climate change. We must be clear, trees are in no way, shape, or form bad for our climate and provide a swath of other priceless ecosystem benefits. And the amount of methane emitted from trees is generally dwarfed by the amount of carbon dioxide they will take in over their lifetime. However, there are only about 3.04 trillion trees on the Earth, with both upland and lowland forests capable of emitting methane. Mere trace amounts of methane on a global scale may amount to a substantial methane source. as we now have a global movement aiming to reforest large swaths of the earth with 1 trillion trees. Now surrounding methane-emitting trees is critical. All right, so yes, that definitely is important. Now, again, there's what was it? Algae. Like there's algae can process carbon dioxide 100 times faster than an equal amount of trees. Maybe you can find a sort of algae or something, some other entity like that can process methane. Then of course that can be used as a food source as well. Like in my environmental policies, working with algae and mushrooms and bugs and hemp and honey to create a powerful nutrient-dense food source is something we should be working on. And algae might be a good place to start to find something that can process methane. All right. Thoughts, questions, comments, thoughts on that? The only doomer thing I've got today. Actually, this is kind of doomer too. I got a little bit doomer here-ish. Not too much though. Find a different place to put my mic because it's super annoying. All right, so we have this video. New wind generation technology produces 6 times more energy. Now this is a short video. I haven't read much more on this besides, well, this video. But let's go and watch this real quick, and then I'll talk about it from there. Hey man, how you doing? I've got about 20 minutes left. You're late. Got busy at 3? Life will do that. How you doing? Everyone, this is a friend of mine from the area. Everyone, and Gorby. These are some of my regulars here. Gaming Mind Germany, Girly Bear US. Who else is here? I'm not sure where An Abortion is from. Quiet Mercenary is from, where's Quiet Mercenary from? From Europe as well. Mostly Europeans in my chat typically. So we're about to watch a video here on a wind turbine energy generation thing. Super short. I interact a lot on Twitch. Do not worry about Ali. Like, okay, that's cool. He's not on here very often. He's cool. All right, here we go. Let me know if you can hear it.
It captures wind at any speed, even as slow as 2 miles per hour. The captured wind is then funneled through a duct where it picks up speed. The wind's kinetic energy will then drive the generator on the ground level and produce electricity. Residual wind will return to the environment. Velox is said to be able to generate 6 times more energy than the amount produced by traditional turbines mounted on towers.
California, there we go. Yeah, I do too. Not that I'm at all biased here, right? But yeah, that would be good. So this sort of wind energy, when I talk about sustainable energy, and Gorby, if are you partnered yet? Oh my God, I was an affiliate for quite a while, but I dropped it so I could use Restream to stream onto other platforms. If you want to support me, I have a Patreon. If you go down below in the description on Twitch, there's a whole bunch of stuff there. So I've got my own policy site and my own blog where I blog about politics and stuff like that as well. So if you're super bored and want to go to sleep, there's a lot there to process. So does it have to be, especially? I don't know. This is the only video that I've seen on this. and I'm probably gonna I'll look up some more on this because I like this concept. In my policies, when I talk about sustainable energy, I do talk about when you have sustainable energy area that you layer it as much as possible. Like, let me find a sustainable energy, blah, 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 blah. Energy, here we go. There you go. So yeah, so you set up, it'd be ideal to set up your sustainable energy in layers in one area. You have a massive hydroponic, multi-acre hydroponic farm. On top of that, vertical axis wind turbines, solar array on top of that, and then high altitude wind turbines on top of that. So you can maximize the return on investment of that land. Now, when I talk about vertical axis wind turbines, one of the ideas I've had with that is that you kind of have a shallow bowl sort of a thing. So it goes down, starts high at the outskirts of this, and then it gets slowly smaller towards the center. That way, as you do that, it increases the pressure, increases the speed, it increases the amount of energy turning the turbines. And this is using a very similar, very similar concept. It starts out big here, and then it gets smaller, which increases the speed of the air going in. And of course, it goes all the way around, so you can get air from all sides. It increases the speed, and the turbine goes faster. So I'll try and find some more on this. I like this concept. I like this concept. Who does this? Sheer Wind. Well, they're from Minnesota, too. I haven't read anything about their efficiency or anything. Come on, give us something. Did you talk about size? That I have not. I haven't. That's pretty big. I don't know. I need to find their website so we can find more info. Here it is. Company. Come on, give us a website here. Give us a website. Oh, here's some. I don't think it gives sizes here. So here, okay, so here it looks like a working model. Where is this? Slide share. Yeah, let's go through this, see if we can find something here. So yeah, takes in wind, gets smaller to focus it, make it go faster. Okay, wind speeds as low as 1 mile. That's pretty cool. And come on, give us sizes here. Okay, no sizes here. Something with relative size here. Come on, give us something. Well, here's one with people. So here's one with a person. Okay, you can't really see it. It's kind of big. So Invelox wind turbine. Let's search for that. Okay, I don't see anything here. I'm not gonna spend my time searching here, but there you go. It's a thing. It's a thing. I'll try and find more information on this because this looks really interesting. Has a lot of potential, looks like. And I'm really curious to see how this compares to other sorts of wind turbines. All right. So, do you have anything you want to talk about, Gorby, while you're here? We've got 10 minutes left. Need a haircut. I've got a bunch of COVID stuff. I don't know what was covered today. Oh, so went over Amazon. Oh, did I? I didn't actually read this. I think I skipped over it. I did skip over this. Okay, we'll go over this. I don't think I didn't read this. So let me read this. Okay, we went over voter suppression in Texas, Venezuela, calling for end to UN sanctions, elite philanthropy is a fraud, marine life fleeing the equators towards cooler waters, trees that emit methane, and then bacteria which eats it. How long have you been doing this? Are you podcast? I don't have podcast version, but if you go to it, right now I'm streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and YouTube. So it's available on YouTube if you want to go there. Do I cover any happy news? Good question. On occasion I do. I'm pretty heavy doomer here, but I do, on occasion, do cover something happy. I'm sure someone can think of something, right? Maybe sometime in the last year. So it's been about a year. Last year sometime is when I started. I can't remember the last thing we covered that was positive. I mean, most of it's just kind of news, environment, politics. Almost all that's negative, though. Well, you could say this is kind of positive, right? You know, sustainable energy, good stuff. Yeah, I don't normally cover positive stuff. It's hard for me to find positive things to post when there's so many things that are bad that I'm trying to raise awareness to, so that we can try and make change. No happy news because people suck. You're definitely one of my crew. There you go. Exactly right, Grilly Bear. I love to know this. I've thought a lot about the lockdown has been good for some families. I'm betting man, as you know. Yeah, obviously some families. Oh yeah, definitely. And this is one of the issues with the way we've dealt with COVID. Some of the countries that have done well with COVID, they've locked down. Spain nationalized their health care. They've stopped all traffic in and out of the countries. Obviously, that's easier for some of these smaller countries that are islands, Indonesia, New Zealand, and some of these other countries which have done that. They masked, locked down, and all that sort of stuff. And they've done a decent job controlling this. But the United States, of course, hasn't done anything because we're a bunch of fucking idiots. And yeah, the lockdown, if your society is messed up, is going to be devastating. It can be devastating. Like, our family's done okay. Not that we're, locked down or anything. Because Wisconsin Republicans have said no to masking and anything else. And Biden's not going to do anything. He said that specifically because he's a fucking horrible human being. But, right, there are some people who this is devastating to. It's like when people have talked about COVID and the social cost of lockdown and social isolation and stuff like that. It can be pretty bad. Abusive people living in abusive families, children not being able to go to school and getting away from abusive families, or the only place, because they're impoverished, they can't go to school to get food, right? And that sort of thing. We just read an article, I think, this last week talking about that there wasn't an increase in suicides, which I was significantly surprised by. I fully expected, because of social isolation, that there would be an increase in suicides and things of that nature. But at least that study said no. But I'm a little bit skeptical of that. Have I covered how the stimulus stuff is really corporate bailouts? Yep. How this sounds like conservative? Yep. But you know better. Obviously, we need them. Yeah, no, that's exactly right. Almost everything that's been passed since, definitely Trump, Democrats are moderate conservatives, and almost everything they do, it's a huge bailout to the 1%. Exactly. Mass shooting? Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's okay. There you go. That's one positive thing. But right, you're exactly right. That everything the government does, Democrat or Republican, it's just millions and billions to the 1%. And you and I, the peasants, get breadcrumbs. Like 1,400. We've received, I don't know how much, 1,400 from the Democrats, and something else. I don't know. Was it? How much was it from Trump? We received more from Trump than we did from the Democrats. And other countries are doing UBI, right? Every month, which is what we need. If you really want to help the social isolation and the shootings and everything else that goes on, you need to have UBI to help prevent all of the issues with it. I didn't get any of the money. Oh, my eldest son, 21, did. He lives on basement. You didn't get any? I did. We received money from all of it. Wow, that sucks. Yeah. Okay, gotcha. Well, good for you on that. So good for you. I'm glad you're doing great. Yeah, we got all that, and it's, you know, considering our family's doing okay because we're doing a lot less. Our expenditures are really low. You only got the first check? Oh, really? Wow, we got both. Yikes! It's yeah, there needs to be a lot more done in order to prevent the issues with and how we're going to solve this. Lockdown, mask, social distance, vaccinate. And if you're going to do that, honestly, for what, 3 to 4 months? Or 2 to 3 months, depending, you know, whatever, that you need to have UBI to do that. You need universal basic income to make and a mortgage moratorium, rent moratorium as well. And then we can do the lockdown, and then people can still afford to buy stuff and so on and so forth. But it's in this country, it's very difficult to do because Americans are just fucked in the head, right? We had people out there protesting a lockdown and protesting wearing masks. I watched, you know, the county meeting when people were coming in and talking about how they don't want a mask mandate. I think because I own back taxes. Oh, back taxes. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, taxes. Yeah, taxes. It's taxes. Taxes have their use. They do have their use when used properly, but typically you will pile every year. Yeah, God, quite a while ago we were paying in every year, but I got tired of that, so I increased our exemptions or whatever. So we're getting money back. Plus, we're one of my businesses, my vending machine business is going under, so we've been receiving money for the past few years, a bit more than we have previously. But previously, we were still getting about 1,000 or 2 back each year because I maximize our exemptions and stuff like that. So yeah, we're still getting money back. That's good. I'd rather get money back, pay more in, get money back than have to pay in, because that's a lot more of a struggle than anything else. We've had money in savings to be able to do that, so that wasn't a big deal, but it's kind of a pain in the ass to pay the fucking government and find the money when you get plans for it, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah. So, need more money. Not going to whine about taxes because it sounds like I'm a brag. Yeah, I don't have a problem paying. It's not so much the issue of paying taxes, it's what is done with those taxes that is the issue. Like, especially on the federal government. The federal government is where the biggest issue is, because money that we pay in taxes to the federal government, so it's Amazon Union. I've heard that they voted against it, but I was going to cover that on here, but I didn't find a good article on it in time. So although most likely Amazon we found guilty for union suppression tactics, so there'll probably be another vote, possibly. So yeah, they voted against it, but hopefully that will get overturned, and then they'll have another election with hopefully people overseeing Amazon and the process or whatever, something like that. But if they do end up voting for unionization, that will be huge. That needs to happen. Like my policies, right? We need to, all the businesses need to be unionized, everything. But the union suppression fine will be next to nothing. Yeah, no, that's exactly right. That's probably what it'll end up being, right? It doesn't matter to these companies because they just pay this slap in the wrist, $10 million, and then they keep the harms of unionization off their business. And you keep paying it, keep paying it, keep paying it, and it's not a big deal. And that's why in my policies I say the fines need to be proportional to business income. Even if it's 10 billion, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Even if it's 10 billion, it's that's a little more of a slap. That's more of a slap on the face than on the hands. But yeah, that's a bit more. Yeah, these fines need to be proportional to business income or profit or whatever they want to call it. Because yeah, if it was 10 billion, it'd be much more interesting, or 20 billion or whatever that magical number is. It needs to be proportional. So that these big Walmart is running record numbers from COVID. Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly right. Yeah, that's exactly right. These businesses are making billions and billions off COVID, and Amazon is horrible in their how they treat their employees. The Walmart is making, well, the Waltons last year put like 30 billion into a family trust, and they they don't have benefits, they don't have high minimum wages, they treat it's not good. Do you know the government subsidized the Walmart COVID leaves? Oh, really? Do you mean COVID vacations, or do you mean COVID leaves? And our hourlies have unions? Nice. That's the way it should be. Everyone, all the things should be unionized. Unionize all the things. And I have that in my policies too.
Was 2 miles per hour.
Wait. Now, what I say about that is, if they get diagnosed, they are covered. Okay. They are covered for 2 weeks without vacation. Okay, so they have the COVID leave. Gotcha. That's cool. It should be. I mean, son of a balls. What do I have here? Here we go. Their employees are on food stamps. Right, exactly. For Walmart, their employees are on food stamps, working 2 or 3 jobs to make it, and Walmart has food drives to try and make sure that their employees have food for Thanksgiving. I mean, Walmart is horrific. Waltons are horrific. We've gone over in a video, an article talking about nationalizing Walmart, nationalizing Amazon, or not necessarily. We could nationalize Amazon, or perhaps even better, turning over Amazon over to an international ownership, international management, and then nationalizing Walmart as the national way of getting supplies and stuff to the people. Yeah, they are that important for sure. Most definitely. In a sense, Amazon has an entire infrastructure for shipping things globally and quickly. I mean, their heuristics is almost precognitive in nature. They almost know what you're going to buy before you're going to do it. And you've got all this Amazon infrastructure plus the standard UPS and USPS and all this other stuff. It has this duplicate infrastructure. It's almost a waste. They are the reason we still have a post office, right? Amazon? Oh, okay. Yeah, for some of it, definitely. They do have their own delivery service too, as well. But yeah, definitely. Amazon has been responsible for shipping things back and forth. I wonder what they do use. Do they use USPS, or do they use UPS, or what service do they use? That's I'm curious what that is. Because that would be, they use all methods, whichever's probably cheapest, I expect, given any product size or whatever. USPS, okay, all right, good to know. Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of things we need to do. I don't think I put that in my policies. Nationalizing Walmart, Sundays, holidays. Okay, nationalizing Walmart and turning Amazon over to a international ownership. We've talked about it here on the channel, but I don't have that in my policies, I don't think. So yeah, we should unionize all the things, and then if we can, shift everything over to cooperatives or to employee-owned businesses. I mean, the default state for everything should be unionization. I mean, it should be basically required, depending on what business size and stuff like that. But the eventual goal should be shifting to cooperatives or employee-owned businesses. That's where we want to end up going to. All right. So, my peeps. It's at 5 o'clock. The wife's going to be home soon. We're going to have to call this a day. Again, for those of you who are lurking or new, I stream on Tuesdays at 5 o'clock and 5 p.m. Central Daylight. Fridays at 11:30 Central Daylight, and Saturdays at 3 Central Daylight time. 3D printer came via the USPS, which I thought was stupid because it was so heavy. Why it wasn't UPS? Oh, okay. Well, I hope to catch up in person. Have a good night, weekend. Yeah, that'd be great, man. It's good to see you. Good to see you. Thanks for stopping by and giving my stream a chance. Yeah, you stay safe and have a great weekend too. Thank you so much. So yeah, if you guys have any last call for comments for calls today. Thanks again, everyone, for gifting me with your time. I really do appreciate it. You could definitely go to other more entertaining streams, but I appreciate you spending your time here with me, learning and growing together. Drinking cream soda, Spreckers. The bottle is just huge. It's bigger than I want. Bought a 6-pack of it, and I'm tearing through it. Anybody else? Last call for alcohol. Go. All right, guys. Thanks so much. Have a great weekend. See you guys later.
Just me and you, let's make up all the rules. Count to 10 and watch the stars turn blue. Watch the stars.